Utilitarianism and optimizing the living experience of other creatures sucks. And it's not for the reason that you might think. The reason it sucks is because if you assume that there's a right way to optimize creatures' life, and that is what we should be striving for, you're missing out on one very simple fact. Suffering is entirely personal. It is not dependent on your external conditions. Raw sensuous experience does not create suffering. Suffering is created by a resistance or a preference to raw sensuous experience. Now, there are natural preferences that we have, like we prefer to not feel pain, we prefer to feel pleasure. And so we might think it's moral to create pleasure for creatures and remove them from pain. But there are two problems here. One, because suffering is interpersonal, there's an ever set of changing rules defining what somebody prefers and what somebody doesn't prefer. To keep track of and satisfy these needs is so difficult, and then we actually have to think, what is it doing for that creature? We live in a impermanent and chaotic and indifferent universe that is constantly throwing curveballs at us. Is it really kindness to coddle people and creatures into always having what they want, always getting what they want, when the natural order of the universe is exactly against that? Because even when you coddle something and you give it all this attention and all this structure and you give it exactly what it wants, people often become spoiled. They become privileged. They become expecting of these new conditions, and their suffering doesn't go away. It just takes new shape. Rich people are miserable because they expect so much more out of reality. It doesn't make them more grateful when you give them things. So we can see that it's actually kind of tricky in just this first point to even understand how we reduce suffering. Suffering is totally interpersonal. Now, the second point on top of all this is that we have to be practical. The whole point of creating an ethical or a moral system is because we want to do the right thing. But at the same time, ignorance is our birthright. You're going to do things out of a good volition that end up hurting somebody. Most people look at this problem and they say, okay, we need to remove the ignorance, but they fundamentally misunderstand where that ignorance comes from. They think it's a knowledge gap. They think that there's a way of understanding problems, a calculation that they can do that solves moral, ethical problems and allows them to do the right thing. This is not true for what I just explained earlier. There is no way to stop somebody from feeling interpersonal suffering. That is completely up to that person. The only freedom we truly have is to actually dive deeper into our volition through meditation, prayer, mantra, whatever it is, in order to interact directly with the nature of suffering and so gain clarity on it. And then because we have gone through our own interpersonal journey of alleviating our own suffering, we understand the necessary steps and conditions that would allow other beings to be in a position where they can let go of that themselves. You become a mirror. You're not holding their hand and saying, follow me, I'll carry you out of suffering. You are giving them the accurate reflection that they need to make that progress, which is why it's still immoral to have a bad volition. It's still immoral to do negative things and bring chaos and discord into the world. Because yes, technically the raw sensuous data you're creating does not directly create suffering, but you also can't ignore that we are animals. We come from an ego. We have a journey of appreciating that we can let go of suffering, of appreciating that we can let go of raw sensuous data. You got to get eased into that. You can't just drop somebody into the middle of a realization like that. You can't traumatize somebody into a realization like that. All you're going to do is create confusion and discord and chaos. Happiness is a delicate thing that you have to build step by step. That's why compassion is so essential to the Buddhist tradition. Without compassion, we forget the starting point of all of this. We forget that the beginning of our ego and the end of it are inextricably connected, that nirvana and also samsara are in the same universe, that they're the same structure. Now, I understand the Buddhist terminology might not work for everybody, and that's okay. You don't need to understand that. All you need to understand is this: two things. Do what feels right to you. It is the highest expression that you have. Be honest about it, be authentic about it. It's okay knowing that it is imperfect, that it has ignorance in it, and that you cannot escape it in this given moment. Then work every single day to understand your own suffering, to understand your own ignorance, to understand yourself and reality, and so that you can do better for the world around you. The most selfless action in this universe is meditation, is working on yourself. How are you going to expect to straighten somebody else's life if you can't straighten your own? How are you going to expect to understand the nature of suffering, of happiness, if you have not discovered it first within yourself? This is why philosophy and ethics is useless. You just sit on your ass all day and you fucking think instead of actually interacting with reality. You abstract and dissociate yourself from the issues of the world. In your pursuit of morality, you end up becoming more disconnected and less empathetic and less actually involved in the experience of people suffering in the world. You cannot comprehend or fathom it in the way that someone who prays or meditates every day does. The world is not material. The world is not external. All we have is our sensuous experience and our mind. Everything else is subject to that. You think you have a brain. Your brain thinks it has a brain. Do you even know what a brain is outside of your own sensuous, hypothetical understanding of a model that says what you're experiencing? Like, it's trippy as fuck, but you actually have to understand that this is practical, to think about life this way. Unless you are directly engaging in the goo and the substance that all of us are sitting in, how are you going to help anybody else who's sitting in it with you? That's all I've got for you guys today. I love you. Check my YouTube, more stuff out there soon. Take care, do good, be honest, be kind.